if you just want to tell us about this event coming up on Saturday, and usually I just let you talk, and then
Okay.
if there's something that I want to go into more, I'll just butt in.
Well, as you know, I live around here in our secret house that almost everybody knows. That's the funny thing. Everyone's seen it. Everybody knows it. And but about a mile away from our house, there's a farm called Winstadt Farm. It was built in 1860. It's pretty old. And a friend of ours is the owner of that farm, Joe Kilsher. And Joe Kilsher's family used to have a food pantry on there that was ignobly shut down. He wasn't involved in it. But he wanted to do something for the community, principally veterans. And we met up and on another project, and I said, you know, the problem with a lot of veterans programs these days is that guys like me, I'm what we call a modern returnee, even though I spent decades in the military. You know, it's the guys who were in Iraq and Afghanistan, don't really have a lot of resources for them. The resources that are in depth from the VA and Department of Veterans Affairs and things like that are really oriented to the older, deeper Vietnam, World War II, Korea generations. And the new guys are new. They're very different than older veterans. You know, my dad was a World War II veteran. As a matter of fact, my family has been in every war since the Civil War. And, you know, myself and 5 brothers, we were all in the Navy. My father was in the Navy. But the older generations managed their return back into society much different than the new generation. The new generation don't want to go to the VFW and drink, right? They didn't have jobs waiting for them back at the factories that they left, like the World War II veterans. They don't really have any thought other than some of their healthcare issues being given to them. So landing back, you know, they're modern guys. They're young, you know, between 20 and 50 years old, which is relatively young, and they're coming back. And a lot of them, especially the younger ones, the new junior ranks, don't have anything there for them other than using the new GI Bill to go to university. But many of them are what we would call sort of these hipster veterans. And they want to do things. They're really different. They don't have their families who would have had a family farm to hand down to them. They don't have, you know, a manufacturing shop that would have been given to them or where they would have gone to work, you know. Or, you know, a coal mine, you know, or a steel plant like Bruce Springsteen has in his song Allentown, right? Where I come from, Philadelphia originally, and that was where you came home to get a job and do the same job your dad and your grandfather did. Those things don't exist anymore. And what new veterans want is they want skills, and they want to be given those skills, and they want skills in asymmetric areas. When I say asymmetric, it means in unusual areas where they can leverage their experience against some other field that they would never have imagined themselves in. And one of those areas is farming. And there have been veterans farm programs since the end of the Civil War. World War I and World War II had veterans farm programs, but those were principally people who would return back to their family farm and then take over their family farm. And as you know, there aren't many family farms in the United States. They're mainly big corporate farms. And a lot of these guys want to do that. They want to do, they also not only just want to learn skills, but they want to learn in the environment that they've come to know in the military. The military is extremely heavy now on physical fitness and, you know, adventure training and all these things, you know, marathon runners and 5K runners and weightlifting, adventure racing, and all of these things. That's what these guys want to do. These are the guys who are going up in the Adirondacks. These are the guys who, you know, will go kayaking, you know, especially after you come back from someplace like Afghanistan or, you know, or Iraq. You're in the desert. forever. You want to go do things that will give you that level of excitement without the level of stress, and also to use sports as a stress release factor for, in order to avoid or limit the impact of post-traumatic stress disorder. So we're really talking about a completely different veteran, because we're in a different society. Our society now cherishes veterans and honors their service. But we've had pitfalls with getting them veterans health. And a lot of the skills training that's being offered are traditional skills, like if you were a truck mechanic in Bagram Air Force Base in Afghanistan, the types of grants and training they want to give you is how to go run a car repair shop. Well, that person may not want to do that. If you're the primary mover, as they say, or the operator of a heavy machine gun, well, that doesn't translate back into where you are and where you're from. So when I met Joe Kilser and we got together and we discussed, what would you do? He has a 180-acre beautiful farm. It sits just off Route 9H in Stottville, right, in Stockport, and to the left, as you look north, to the left you have the Catskills, and to the right you have the Berkshires. Mm-hmm. But you have 180 acres of land. That's one continuous mile of linear farming, with a stand of trees, and the fields are already being worked. Mm-hmm. And he said, he was an old volunteer firefighter, and he has PTSD. And he says, I really want to do something with this. I don't just want this to go out and just be a place where somebody comes in and mills hay and everything. And I said, well, have you considered doing veteran skills training? And he had, because someone had housed him, the VA, or I believe it was Cumberland County Veterans, had asked him if he would house a new returnee, an Army veteran who had a drug problem, needed a house to stay in. So we let him stay in his house. And he tried to get him, to learn the skill stations that he had on the grounds. I mean, he has a carpentry hall. He has a wood mill. He has tractors. He has donkeys and goats and ducks that need to be fed, and and horses. And if you look at it from the perspective of the way the military does training, we do this holistic form of training, but we do it in a block per skill segment, right? So if you want to deal with a horse, you don't just deal with a horse, right? You have to deal with you have to learn the horse environment. And the horse environment is a farm or stables. If you don't have stables, you have to build the stables. So that everything is done so that there are building blocks of skills that lead you to, okay, now put a saddle on a horse, right? Until there's a tack room, you can't have saddle. Until there's stables, you can't have a horse. And and we found ourselves in a circumstance where these things were extant, but what they needed was people who would come there and learn how to acquire these skills so that they themselves could independently go out and run a farm, or a stable, or a livery, or run a carpentry hall, or run a wood mill, make their own food. And so that's where the concept came from, was a veteran skills training facility that was based up in Stockport. We've been planning this for about a year. We're doing the open house now because we've got a lot of interest. As you know, I've got a level of notoriety. But I have a lot of buy-in from other parts of the veterans, support community. Cornell University runs a veterans farmer training and financing and management program. It's very small, but it's used, to give support to veterans who want to come into New York State and open their own farm. There was an effort here recent that may still be around called Heroic Foods, that was in Greenport, if I'm not mistaken, or Greenport, where they were housing veterans who were going out to other farms and learning how to operate a farm, husband and wife teams. We wanted something a lot more closer to the military experience, where you come into an environment, because we have a lot of troubled vets too, and you want to come into this environment and be put back in an environment you understand, which is, a military environment where, at 6 a.m, the bugle sounds and you have to get up, and you have to go out and, have breakfast, and then go out and do physical training, and then go out and do whatever job skill 1 of the day is. And that may be feeding the horses in a systemic method, so that everyone gets this experience. Everyone learns those skills. Everyone also has to work together to be a team, to whether it's repairing the barns or fixing the residence. It gives you that team building spirit and esprit de corps that you had in the military. We're finding a lot of the more troubled vets need that. We have people who have drug addictions. We have people who still have severe post-traumatic stress disorder. And you don't have to have any physical scars. We have a lot of Purple Heart winners, but I in my 20 years in active service, I managed to avoid a Purple Heart, but that doesn't mean that you don't have scars and you don't have traumas that need to be managed, that are better managed in an environment with people who are like you. And right now, a lot of that's being farmed out to the VA, and you have to get an order bus, and you've got to go out to Catskill, or you got to go up to Albany. There is no one center in Columbia County that could manage all of this. And this is our goal, is to, 1, give them those veterans those skills to run a farmstead, to be wholly independent for themselves, to make their own food, to manage their own animals, to build their own buildings. We want to, cut their own wood to build their own buildings. And then also provide a center in the county that any veteran can come to. We plan a veterans resource hall, and it also gives you a place where there will always be people. It doesn't always have to be the VFW, and the VFW and the American Legion are fine organizations. But this will be really oriented to the more modern returnee, the Iraq, Afghanistan, veteran, or modern war on terrorism veteran, who will really be looking for those skills. We've got a lot of support. This is, like I said, it's new. It's just out of the blocks. This is our open house, just to show you the facility and how we're going to improve that facility and turn it into this training center. But we've spoken to people at the state level, people and most interest is coming out of New York City. The New York City Veterans Program there is huge, and it's managed by a lieutenant general who just thinks that, that city alone could fill this facility nonstop. We also want to do it in 2 different flavors. We want to have people who are residents on there who don't, maybe they're vets who are having a hard time maintaining a home. So we have up to 10 rooms there that we're building out. We're actually adopting these rooms out to donors to build out this residence. And then we want to also have visiting residents or visiting personnel who will come just for the day and do the same thing. But we'll break them down into teams, and as a team, they'll all learn these skills and they'll rotate. As of now, we plan on dividing the farm into 4 to 6 acre section, or 4 to 6 sectors, multi-acre sectors. And the teams will go out and they will do various types of crops. But again, it's designed so that every individual could independently, at the end of a year or 2 years, at least start to learn the basics of going out and becoming wholly independent veterans farmers.
How many people on the farm at a time do you anticipate?
Well, we anticipate about 20 on the farm at a time. So that would be 10 residents and 10 visiting who are actually enrolled in that program. But we can expand depending on the size of support that we get. Because, you could have 30 people in a team, and then, in a farm 180 acres, and the campus that they have, just rebuilding the buildings and building new structures like, the dog kennels that we want on there and the horse stables. These are things that our biggest problem is we have no manpower right now. But as we advertise and we get those people there, it's, you know, the people that we want on resident are the people who need to be resident, right? People who don't have a place to go. But we have a lot of veterans between, you know, we've have as much interest as far north as Lake George and then New York City to the south. And as I said, if this becomes a feeder program for New York City, well, we'll fill the 10 residences in a matter of minutes. And then we can handle people who could come out maybe even for shorter programs like just carpentry hall or just animal husbandry or just, you know, working with war dogs and things like that. So it's really, the sky's the limit because it's a very big facility. But right now we're starting very small, just so we can get it off the ground and get the program set up.
When do you think it's going to start?
That's a good. Well, you know, that's entirely up to donors and what level of interest we can get. And we've had great interest. We sat down with Paul Rykoff at IAVA, Iraq Afghanistan Veterans of America, and he's a hard charging guy, and he was like, "Wow, this is awesome." There is actually a veterans farm organization nationally that does this, that sort of encourages people to do the same thing, but they don't have a facility. So you could be a veterans farmer by going out and buying a farm. What we want to do is be able to give you those skills, and then eventually work with the Farm Bureau or Department of Veterans Affairs, and then you go out and buy a small farm. You start with a small plot. 20, 30 acres as opposed to a giant farm, and then take your family and learn how to do those skills. So we're hoping over the next year we'll be able to build the facility up. Right now we have to build out Liberty Hall, which is the 10-person residence that we're going to have there. We're trying to find donors for the rooms. We need to sustain what's there now. We have animals on the farm. We have horses and donkeys that need to be fed. We need to plan for future stable and then get more manpower to build out the facilities. So we have had national level interest. We have people from Hollywood, as far away as Hollywood. The actor Ron Perlman, who, from Sons of Anarchy and the movie Hellboy, is a good friend of mine. And he met with Paul Rykoff and I on this subject, and he was like, "This is awesome." Because he played a veteran, a combat veteran biker chieftain in the show Sons of Anarchy. And, he's all about veterans programs. And so it's just a question now, we're in the fundraising and master planning stages of getting this facility turned into a facility where we could have world-class veteran skills training. And the whole purpose of it is just to show people that it's there. The nature of my career was to work in secret, so, we've kept this under wraps for a very long time, because before you can launch it, you've got to build that base of support. And now we have IAVA, and we have some pretty high-powered donors who are ready to do this. But, it's our whole goal was, we don't want $1. We don't want $1 until people know it's there. And now this is going to be the kickoff where we show, we have an old hayloft that's, decrepit, but it's going to turn into a giant public space library and veterans resource center. We've got, architects who are pro bono redesigning these places. Then, it's also like, okay, that's $10 million. Let's go find $10 million. So, but we're showcasing it just to show that this place has a lot of potential. I mean, in some things you might see and look at and you start thinking, wow, you have 3 nice silos. And we go, yeah, we're turning those into rock climbing towers. Because this is the sort of stuff modern vets, returnees want to do. They want to rock climb. They don't want to, no offense to some other organizations, they don't want to sit around and drink all day. And there was a time in history, my father's period.
My father's too.
Yeah, you didn't go learn skills. You had skills. My dad was a World War II vet, actually a 3-war vet, and he would take us kids to the VFW.
Me too.
And while he would drink, we'd have Shirley Temples, right?
Me too. Yes.
So, and that was a hallmark of a different era. And what we want to be a hallmark of this modern era is, we're cutting 3.5 miles of trail on there. And a good part about this place is it already has a, what's the agreement they have with Scenic Hudson? A conservation agreement with Scenic Hudson.
Right.
So the farm has to remain a farm. The woods that are there aren't disturbed. But Scenic Hudson also has a trail that terminates at the end of that farm in Stottville. And so we last spring started cutting down areas that would give you a 3-acre walking, running trail all the way around that farm that can be used for cross-country skiing, walking. It'll take you by the 3 ponds that are on the farm, meditation, because that's what these guys want. They want to, if you're in the Army for 4 years, first thing you do is you PT. You go run a 5-mile run first thing in the morning. And as I learned when I got knocked off of Old Stottville Road by a car that damaged my shoulder, this isn't the most run-friendly community. So we want to give them a place, not just veterans. It'll be open to the public, right? All the trails will be completely open to the public. You can cross-country ski in winter. But you're on a farm. You're going around all the farm fields up and down hill and dale with incredibly beautiful views. I mean, I was stunned when I took my first walk around there. I was like, why is this hidden away? And then when I took a walk around the back 40, I go, well, here's the end of Scenic Hudson's trail. Why isn't there a trail leading onto this and taking us on a gigantic meander around this place? And he said, yeah, that's a great idea. So we're going to be doing that. And the thing is, that will really, we need those trails anyway for the, we use the tractors now go up and down these dirt roads. And the trails really outline the perimeter of it. And it will give these guys a place to walk, run, and think. Also will give the community a really big resource that they can use. We want people from the community, from Hudson and Stockport and Greenport, to just jump onto that and have this extension of the trails that goes out there.